it's crazy. Britt's birthday. He's 18 today.
Oh my
Happy birthday
goodness.
to my son. Yeah, our youngest is now 18, and your
Good
youngest,
job, Britt.
yeah, and your youngest is hopefully taking a nap. So, isn't
9 months almost. He's a week
that
away from
crazy?
9 months.
I love that time though. I just love it when they were babies. I really loved it, and then I like it now because I think as a parent, we move from being protectors because that's our goal, right? I mean, protect our kids at all costs to moving to being kind of like advisors,
Hmm.
and not friends. I still want to be a parent to my kids,
That's right.
friendly with them, but I don't. But my job is to ask them questions. Are you sure you really want to do that? Have you thought about the outcomes of that? What are what's your plan there? And like, so my job is to more guide them in life versus protecting them. And I've found that to be a very interesting change that I've gone over now. I think men are a little bit better than women. Not saying that my wife's bad, but she still wants to protect them and all the things, and that's a natural instinct. But
That's right.
it's a weird evolutionary process that you go through, though. I think with from babies to where your youngest is at to, and you're even seeing that with your other kids as they kind of start to be self-sufficient and all the
Hmm.
things, and so we don't have to protect them as much, but it's fun. I love being a parent. I still love being a parent. It's just different than it used to be. I'm not.
And the question is really, and I think the ones that are a lot more successful, the family units that are more successful, is when the parents recognize that even when they're in your house, especially right like as middle school and definitely with high school, maybe you can control them for those years, but if you didn't teach them how to think for themselves and make smart choices, they'll it's still going to be a mess as soon as they leave, or they're going to make a lot they can make bigger, more permanent mistakes. If you spent the time in middle school and high school teaching them how to think and work through those things and learn from little mistakes, and you don't let them learn from the little mistakes at that time, then they learn them later in life and they're more painful, and it's a lot harder. And I've seen a lot of that happen where, especially in like a conservative Christian parenting situation, where they just try to control them the whole time, and then they lose control of them, and then they leave the house, and now they've got nothing. And so teaching them, especially in middle school and high school, how to make smart choices is how they're more likely to be more successful earlier on than have to go through, maybe what you went through in terms of a really much harder early adult life, right?
Yeah, yeah. My parents were when I was in high school, so I'm the middle child. So when I was like 16 or so, they separated for like 6 months. My mom has since passed away, and then they got divorced after my wife and I got married. So about 20 years ago or so, they got divorced. But that was a 15 years, where they got back together, and it just wasn't very good. And then I think my brother and I kind of got out of that phase. We got out of the house. My sister's a lot younger than us, and she didn't have that guidance and stuff because my parents had a broken marriage, at that point, and it was really difficult for them, for her especially, to learn a lot of the mistakes that I think my dad and mom were a little bit more engaged with my brother and I, and I think it really helped us. I still had a lot of things to learn, but I think it really helped because they were engaged, and then my sister, being 9 years younger than me, she really kind of fell through the cracks, I think, a little bit, and she struggled. Um, she really has. I mean, she's a great mom. She's got three girls and all the things, but she's really struggled with some of the life lessons that were very difficult that I think my brother and I have been able to navigate a little bit easier because of that good family structure we had earlier, in
Hmm.
our lives. So I mean, it's really important, and I hope my boys do. I will take, Representative Kim Wallen always has a funny bar. She says, just don't raise criminals.
That's that
That
that's
she goes, that's
a
your
good
bar
one.
as a parent. Like it's the smallest bar, it's the lowest bar. Of course, we want them to do all the other things, but she goes, that's the bottom bar. You
That
can't
is right.
criminals, and the rest of it they'll kind of figure it out. And there's probably some truth to that. I always find it funny because she's told Vikki that many, many times, and it makes me laugh when she says that one. But it's It is kind of true, right? I mean, you want to
Absolutely.
raise good humans and all that sort of thing. So, and both my boys are very, my oldest is way more into politics than the youngest. He's not really into politics, and it's kind of funny how you raise them the same, and yet they both have. They're so. I mean, you have it with your three kids. Like they're just so different. They came out of this, the same gene pool. You're raising them the same, but it's just amazing how God creates each of us to be these unique vessels, these unique creatures that are just amazingly different, and it's just odd to me and fascinating and wonderful. And I hope my youngest goes and takes the world by storm, and he's gonna go play. He just got his towel that I so he got his towel that has his name on it to play in the Scottish Open next June as the
Ooh.
representing the United States of America,
Whoa.
and
That's
they
pretty
sent him a
cool.
towel, and it's pretty cool that has his name on it and all the golf courses they're playing and all the things. It's pretty neat. He's pretty excited about it. So here I'll show. I think you can see that. Can you see that?
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Maybe I'll put that in the show notes or something. So, but
There you go.
yeah, so he's looking forward to those sort of things. He's got the day off today from work, and so he's gonna go bowling with his friends tonight. And Chris Vicky's like, "What? You don't want to stay home and have cake and ice cream with us?" And he's like, "No, I'm going bowling with my friends." Those things are hard
Classic.
on moms, I think.
I think that's right. I think that's right. All right. Well, I want to start with something that sometimes looks like parenting, which is the Senate president and choosing his committees, right? So the Senate
Oh,
president, he has many children, and he has to try to make all of his children happy, and he has to just sort of prove that he doesn't love any child over another. But usually, with limited gavels, the bigger the Democratic majority gets, the harder that is. And recently, and so I'm curious if you've heard anything, Brian, but there's a report here. Oregon Democrat who criticized the Senate president has been removed from his committee. So now this is actually the second time that Rob Wagner has removed Senator Mark Meek from a committee. The first time was on transportation, and that was obviously super successful. Everybody loved that. Oh wait, no, that actually went pretty poorly. And a lot of people think that that may have led into what we talked about a few episodes ago, where Senator Meek just sent out a letter to all his colleagues, which eventually got covered about Wagner's job and how he evaluates Wagner's job as Senate president, and criticized him for a lot of stuff. Um, and I would say a lot of people, and this is Senator Meek says in this article, he's disappointed losing his chair of Senate revenue. I think a lot of people thought he did a great job in Senate revenue, especially. He really kept, because it's in revenue, that's where a lot of your tax increases will go. And he's a smart guy who realizes that Oregonians aren't super excited about all of that stuff. And so he kept a lid on a lot of the tax increases. And then also, most of your tax credits go through there. And it sounds like he did a pretty
yeah.
decent job preserving important tax credits, too. And now he's losing that. Now, I don't know that Broadman will do any worse of a job. Wagner put Anthony Broadman there, another kind of perceived moderate of his caucus. The really scary thing would be giving that gavel to somebody like Golden or Pham, who opposes all tax credits and loves all tax increases. So at least he didn't do that. But I was wondering if you have heard anything, if Senate Democrats have met, or if this is a preemptive attack. What's this? Have you heard any rumors about their
Well,
potential caucus meeting?
I would say clearly Wagner survived any sort of coup by Mark Meek and
That's what I
whoever
was
else
thinking.
was kind of behind it. So they clearly, and I think part of it is I don't think anybody wants the job
Right.
on the Senate Democrat side. I mean, I don't think Mark put his name up. Like he said Senate President should be replaced, but he didn't say I want the job. So
Right.
it's a tough job being Senate President. Like I believe it's very difficult because you got to serve so many masters, for lack of a better word. Like, you have all these people they elect you, and then now they all want something, right? They want to be chair of this, chair of that. I mean, I think Senator Pham and I get along well with Senator Pham, but I think she wants to be chair of every committee.
Well, who
You
doesn't?
know, she has thoughts and ideas, I think, on because she's involved in transportation, she's on housing, I mean, she's got a lot of thoughts, right? And I think I'm excited I'm sad for Senator Meek because clearly the relationship between him and Rob is really broken down. And that's clear. I mean, it's obviously started with transportation because that was those meetings, remember at the end of session when Wagner's down there and Meek was making his comments, like, and Wagner's just kind of looking at him like at the dais and he's literally blowing them up and they're literally sitting on the same dais together. And then Wagner says nothing, right? He just,
Crazy.
yeah. And then Meek just gets up and leaves. And it was like, and Wagner's never addressed it. He never addresses anything.
No,
This
he
is
doesn't.
why I think is the part that probably irks me the most about the Senate president is you don't get to really know him at all because he puts nothing out there in the press. Like he never does a sit down interview. We've asked him to come on this show. He hasn't come
That's
on.
right.
I would love to because I do actually like Rob. I get along with him well. And I think that there is a personality there, but I think I hate to say the word afraid, but I think he's afraid to do things off the cuff. Of course, I just said it, but I think that, and I think he likes to have measured responses when it comes to the media. But I think that personality or those things don't really shine through, and then that gets you into these problems. Where Mark Meek is the complete opposite. He's an off the cuff guy, right? I mean, you can
Hmm.
just catch him and he'll just give you his opinion, and he's very
Well, we should
straightforward.
invite Senator Meek on the show to maybe he may not talk about this, but he always has good insights. And
Yeah.
like you said, I love running into him in the hall and chatting. We always talk about how we both shop at Nordstrom Rack for our legislative outfits that we need,
Yes. And
various
Kirkland
things.
hats. Yeah.
And
Um,
listen, he doesn't. I have never seen him wear a Kirkland hat to the legislature. He has more respect, and as do I. I don't wear hats. I wore the
no.
hat to Capitol one time, but it was when we're not in session, and it was not even legislative days interim. But got to have respect for the office. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I think though, I am excited about Senator Broadman. I get along with Senator Broadman pretty well. And my boss, Senator Anderson, was put on revenue and finance with
ooh,
him. So
was Starr on there before?
yes.
Okay, so Starr is leader now, so he has fewer
Yep.
committee assignments, so that makes sense. So
So
that's
it'll be
great. I mean,
Anderson and McLean will be the two Republicans, and McLean is the neighboring district to Broadman, and they get along well. So
yeah.
I think there's some, and we're gonna have some big stuff to work on because one of the biggest thing is the decoupling from the federal tax code. So that is going to go through that committee. So that
That
is,
is going to be a huge issue because Democrats really badly want that revenue. But I think the interesting. So here's, I think, and I think the Republicans, as much as I hate to say this, should adopt the Democratic shutdown strategy, which is we need to have one clear thing that we're asking for, right? Now,
yeah,
I don't think we should ask for money for health care for illegal immigrants. Democrats are already doing that. But we should have a clear ask and say, okay, if you want to decouple from revenue and you want to raise everybody's taxes on something, what's one thing that we can get out of that we go behind that says, if you give us this, we'll supply the votes. It'll pass
yep,
everything that you need, right? And let's see if they're willing to do it, or if they try to muscle it through and risk a bunch of Democrats losing their elections over raising taxes again. Because that's really the thing that you're the play that you make if you don't get Republican buy-in on this is it becomes an electoral issue. But if a bunch of Republicans vote for it, then we can't really use it in the campaigns because then it looks hypocritical, right? So
yeah,
the question, as it always is are they going to govern as a one party full control state, which has got them to where they're at now, which is about to have to either raise taxes or cut a bunch of budgets, or do they want to work together? And
it's a good
so
question.
Republican leaders, Republican legislators kind of need to come up with whatever the ask is. I mean, you could come up with any number of things. I mean, we could go natural resources and say, let us cut some timber. You could go with water or ag, or there's any number of directions that you can go on
Yeah,
that front. But even OBI is opposed to decoupling, and OBI is not some right wing organization. They're just a kind of centrist business group for the most part Oftentimes Republicans are annoyed at OBI for not getting more involved on certain issues because they sort of try to maintain that kind of business only centrism, and they're opposed to federal disconnect, right? Raising taxes because there's a lot of key business write-offs that the Democrats would kill off at the
Yeah.
state level with that. So where are the Democrats going to go on this? I think that's going to be a really fascinating one.
It should be good discussion. The good part about short sessions I like is that we tend to have those faster.
Right away. Because
So
if you don't
yeah,
move it right away, that thing's dead. I mean, if your bill isn't pre-session filed, heard on the first week, moved on the second week, it is dead,
yep.
dead, dead.
And we'll
So yeah.
probably the other contentious bill that will go through there is probably transient room tax.
Oh gosh. Because so I think a lot of people, and I don't remember if this was publicly reported or not, but it sounds like Senator Meek was the one who killed. That was a Javadi bill
Yeah.
moved through House revenue. Uh, and I don't know how the vote went on House revenue, but it died in Senate revenue because Meek wouldn't
Yep.
hear it basically.
Yeah.
And so now is Broadman more interested in that? Now here's the thing: Central Oregon is really benefits from that money, and if that gets siphoned off to local government, of course Broadman's a local government guy. He
Yeah,
came
he
from City
is.
of
Yeah.
Bend, so
Yeah.
as a City of Bend councilor, he's probably all in on taking TLT. As their senator, though, in a district that has a lot of revenue from that, that is, very best beneficial in the restaurant and lodging industry,
Yeah.
and the the all the
Well,
promotion they do for
yeah, the
Bachelor and
Central
others.
Oregon. Yeah.
What is he going to do on that front? That's going to be a tough one for him. That's probably maybe one of the toughest issue he's faced in his time in the Senate at
We're
this point.
well, and we're kind of in the same boat too. I mean, Senator Anderson's from the coast, so Lincoln City, Newport. I mean, same scenario as Central Oregon, right? Lots of tourism, lots of people coming to the coast, but yet you got to juxtapose that with a bunch of, local cities that are starving for revenue. So we got
That's
to
right.
figure out, and I think we can find a happy medium. I really do. I think there's maybe not the Javadi bill because I don't think the Javadi bill because there were some other things chunked into the Javadi bill. There was wolf compensation funding. There was
Which
wild,
a lot of
wild
Republicans really want.
and wildlife crossings, which was Ken Helm's big legacy take home thing that died there. So, and that
Hmm.
got, I know that got those two things got some Republicans to a yes on that TLT bill before. So, I just think we got to go back and take a look at those sort of things and make sure that, we're getting things that are important, like you just said, but they can't be like, here's our laundry list of things that Republicans want. I mean, we are in the minority and we have to remember that
You
we
get one thing. I think that's
yeah,
the
you can
answer. You're in
cherry
the
pick.
minority, you get one thing. You don't get a list, you don't get 10 things, you get one thing.
Yep, and I agree. And if the gas tax somehow, if they get the referral done, that's going to foobar everything too. If we somehow get enough signatures by January 2nd, going into short session, you now have a referral coming. So what do the Democrats do? They pass another gas tax? Do they go back
I
to?
They are so screwed if that happens. I mean, that is and it'll
So
be
many things up
super
in the air.
interesting to see how that goes.
Because if
You
you get enough
mentioned
signatures, it freezes everything.
that's right. And now they're in that's a bad budget place to be. I mean, they're already in bad strait. I've talked to a couple Democrats,
Yeah.
and they're like the sky is falling. And the problem is the sky hasn't even barely begun to fall yet. 27, 29 is the apocalypse budget. And so they have some really hard decisions to make. You mentioned Ken, and here's the thing that's going to make it harder. You mentioned Ken Helm. I do not know if he is running for re-election or not, but he has an opponent. Whether he's got somebody running there, and they posted today the Portland Socialists of what's the Portland Socialists of America or something
PSA,
like that.
yeah. PSA.
They're an offshoot of Democratic Socialists of America, and these guys are the Tea Party. We talked about this before. The Tea Party of the Democratic movement right now, except they want a socialism. And so a lady named Tammy Carpenter, who is like this lady would be a total nightmare in the legislature. She hates Jews. She said so much in Beaverton school on this while on the Beaverton school
Eh.
board. She's being investigated because of comments that she has made. But her side, the Palestinian from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free group, thinks that it's a witch hunt. They've called it a witch hunt and said they're trying to silence her and all this stuff. Still haven't heard anything from any of those folks about the ceasefire that President Trump was able to get, by the way. Weird how quiet it is on
Funny.
that front. But she is running, endorsed by the Democratic Socialists group in Portland, and they literally wrote, they want a House Democratic Socialist Caucus. And so she
Yeah.
joined that with Farah Chaichi, and I don't know if anyone
Edgy.
else would invite, if they're still waiting. Chaichi hasn't been able to form it, so there must not be another socialist out there that's willing to out themselves.
Yeah.
But she apparently is, and so they'd form a socialist caucus. And I mean, this is a huge problem for Democrats long term because there's a little segment of Portland where this sounds and is very, very popular, and they all hang out together and they all protest ICE together and all that stuff. And then everywhere else in Oregon, even Democrats are just like looking at this with eyes as wide as could possibly be, scared out of their minds about the future of their party. And so they have a tremendous problem here. So I hope for Democrats' sake that Ken Helm runs again because we're absolutely cooked if he does not.
Yeah, and Kim's been a good advocate for natural resource policy and has been a good, a good partner on really trying to make changes happen and change that narrative a little bit where it's not just, the greenies running the show, right? And natural resource policy. I think he's a pretty good negotiator as well as, somebody that says, hey, get me to the right answer. Don't just give me the talking points, and I like Ken. I have known him a long time and I think he's a good guy. But I
Yeah.
do believe that he's retiring, which is a bummer. So that was the last. Now I haven't confirmed that before, but talking to him during long session, I mean, he was, pretty much not coming back. So kind of like Lively, right? I mean, we lost a couple of, if Helm does retire, I mean, we've lost a couple of pretty good, Democrats that are because the lady running in Springfield to replace Lively she's might as well be Portland DSA too because she's batshit crazy. So I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, you can go look at some of the stuff this lady said in the Springfield City Council, and it's just insane. Like to your point, like this is the DSA is the tail wagging the dog right now. They are wagging the dog of the Democrat Party. They are the ones down protesting ICE and doing all the crazy shit. They're the ones that want open air drug dens, or homeless camps. But I think that they're the ones that push that Measure 110 stuff. They're the ones that are pushing. I do believe that generally Democrats, like in the legislature, want universal health care. I believe that. I believe they want
Yeah.
that. They think it's the right move. I do believe they genuinely believe government can do things better than private, citizens are private companies on some level, right? A lot of things. So they believe in bigger government because it's better, all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
They believe in the equality and all that sort of stuff that, I think we all agree on. But when it comes down into these like very nefarious kind of crazy, I do believe they think climate change is real and that they have to do something to save the globe, from us poor humans that are destroying everything. So I do believe they have some of those truths, but then you get into these like weird DSA stuff where it is just weird. And they go far, far, far to the left. And I think the normal Democrats are kind of like, "Ew. Can you guys just keep it quiet over there?"
That is exactly what they are thinking, but they can't say it out loud because it's a lot of their own primary voters, and they can't show that they're opposed to any of that stuff,
Yeah.
because then they get a primary challenger, and so I mean it's truly going to be super interesting to see how that all shakes out. We got to keep it moving here, but
Yep. Who else is
so
retiring that I'm really curious about? And I'll go ahead and touch on this one because
yeah,
it's in my boss.
rumors are flying.
Yeah, Boomer Wright. is
Boomdog.
rumored to be retiring. He hasn't filed for re-election yet. He wasn't there for special session there at the end and stuff. He's had
I
some, I think,
think that
double knee
he had a
replacement.
medical procedure that was keeping him out. What it wasn't, as far as I know. I don't want to say too much about it, but it
Double
wasn't a
knee.
life-threatening thing. Okay,
No,
there you
double
go.
knees. Yeah, double
Double
knees.
knees.
Which is crazy. I love Boomer. Boomer's great. He's
He's
one
awesome.
of my favorite humans in that building. I just love, and like what a great name too, Boomer, because he's got such a voice too that just fits, right? So he's rumored to retire, and Troy Cribbins, which is funny, who is the husband of Melissa Cribbins, who, Senator Anderson and I beat in 2020.
Yeah.
She's a Democrat and she was a county commissioner, and nobody thought we'd win that race against her, and we did, because I'm one of the few that actually can win blue races, in Oregon. Um,
For being such a right-wing nut job, Brian, I'm really impressed at
I
that.
know, isn't that crazy? Yeah. And then, but in Melissa, the funny part was is she's actually now the port commissioner, or the executive director of the port. She's gotten out of the county commissioner stuff. She lost. And then, but I didn't realize her husband was a Republican, and he was
I
on
had
the
no
hospital
idea.
board, and then he's on the Coos Bay City Council. And so he approached us when we were down there and said, "Hey, I really want to run." And I just said, "Well, you got to talk to Boomer, right?" I mean, it's like and so he's reached out to Boomer, I know, numerous times, and then he put out a press release that said if Boomer doesn't run, he'd like to run. So I'd be curious to see what happens there. Boomer's been pretty quiet on it, so it's a rumor. We will continue to track it on the candidate tracker. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know what else will happen with that seat, but that could be a pretty interesting primary because it's a weird seat that stretches from Eugene to Coos Bay. And it's kind of got Florence and all the pieces in between. So the predominant number of Republicans are in Coos County, though, of that district. So it is the more redder side of that. So we will continue to watch that one and see what happens.
And rumor is there's a Republican staffer in the Capitol that may also jump into that primary as well. So we'll keep you updated on that front as
Yeah,
well.
we will watch that one.
Okay, another one also connected to, so folks who know follow Republican politics, and I forget, is Tracy still the Republican National Committee woman from Oregon?
Yes.
So Tracy Honl, Republican National Committee woman. So we have one man and one woman, just like marriage, right? Who represent the, I'm just kidding, the RNC, who represent the RNC. Oregon in the RNC, so they represent the state party. So usually you send like three people: your party chair, your national committee man, and your national committee woman. Democrats have a
Yes.
different structure, which weirdly also requires gender parity, which I think is incredibly hilarious in their leadership. But anyway, they go to the RNC, and so her husband, Christian Honnold, announced that he is running House District 32 as a Republican in the primary against Max Sherman, who is also in that race, and they will compete in the primary to see who will run in the general election against Cyrus Javadi, who recently changed his party and voted for the gas tax there. And that, I think that's the race to watch in the state, because I think it very much tells us the future of the state. Is the future of the state blue no matter who, because of how bad Donald Trump and the Republicans are from the perception of, we'll say, a majority of Oregonians who did not vote for Trump?
Hmm.
Or is it Oregon is so blue and so bad that we will vote Republican still because we need a check and balance against one party rule here, just as they want a check and balance against Trump at the federal level, right? And so that is the big question, I think. And what I think 32 will basically tell us which direction are we going.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. And I think two quality candidates. It looks like, Max Sherman and Christian Honnold both stepped up and said, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and take a run at it." And they're both from like literally the opposite sides of the district. Max Sherman's from southern Tillamook County, and Christian Honnold's from Astoria, I believe, is what it said in his press release. But I think that's where he lives. But like literally the other side of the district. So
Yeah.
maybe they can high five each other when they crisscross and go to all the local events and everything and try to say, hey, I'm best to represent. I think whoever it is out of those two that move forward are able to, really communicate clearly to that, group of voters, which is relatively new to Republican representation.
Right.
It's only since 2020 since they've been really Republican. Before that, they've had Democrat, and they had Betsy Johnson all the way up until 22, right? So,
Yeah. And then they experienced Tiffany Mitchell for one cycle and were like, yeah, we'd rather be Republicans. Thank you so much.
yeah, she helped us change the narrative in that district. There's no doubt. And also, too, it's really going to be that district. I think you're right on the Trump stuff. What's the narrative there? But we're going to be able to see that play out in a few other districts. But I think in that coastal district, especially with the Javadi stuff, switching parties, like, do the Democrats welcome a Republican into their house, or are they, kind of like feel like they're letting the lion into the chicken coop, kind of thing, and are they scared
You
of
mean the
it?
fox in the hen house?
Yeah, whatever that sting.
By the way, Brian, I totally forgot about this. Tiffany Mitchell moved to Washington and ran for office and lost to a Republican in 2024.
Oh, no way. I didn't know she went to Washington or
It
ran.
was 54-45 in House District 26 or District 26. They do a weird division thing there. And she lost to a Republican there by almost 9,000 votes. I mean, that's getting clobbered.
That's wild. What would make her think she got ran out of the house?
Yeah.
And what would make her think, I'll just move to Washington. Next, we're going to see Shamia Fagan run somewhere up there.
That would be so. Maybe she's got two options because she's also done consulting for cannabis folks in New Mexico, where Pat Allen went from OHA. So there's opportunities aplenty for Democrats in other states. If you've embarrassed yourself here in Oregon or done crimes, either.
Well, think about it. Most of Tina Kotek came from Illinois. I mean, no wonder, right? I mean, it's kind of
right.
They move out here and just run. I mean, it is an oddity, so that they can just move and then go run again. I find that pretty interesting, but most people don't step up and do stuff. So yeah.
And then you wrote in here on Saturday, the PCPs will vote to send their list of Senate nominees. For Senate District 26, Daniel Bonham has vacated that a Senate seat to go work as a deputy in the Department of Labor. Now that looks like a deputy position where he, lobbies Congress on behalf of the Department of Labor, communicates with Congress. Not a lot to do in that job right at the moment, because Congress isn't in session because of the shutdown. They're not meeting very much, but maybe he'll have opportunity once Democrats reopen the government.
America was built on the idea that anything is possible with hard work and a dream. But it doesn't seem to feel like that today in Oregon. Democrats' out-of-touch far-left agenda has only made things worse. Paying union workers to strike against us, stealing private property rights away, driving companies out of Oregon, and sending your taxes higher so you can't afford to live here. From gas tax, open-air drug markets, and homelessness, Democrats have failed. Democrats passed an additional gas tax on you. Every day, Oregonians will now pay over $4 billion more to failed Democrat agendas. It's time to push back, stand up, and say enough. Senate Republican leader Bruce Starr is leading the charge to refer this horrible gas tax to you, the voters. Republicans think you should have a vote. Write this website down, notaxoregon.com. Get involved and stay ready. Governor Kotek and Democrats will do their best to make sure your voice does not count. Together, we can win and restore much-needed balance in Oregon against unchecked left-wing ideology of Portland Democrats the rest of us don't share.
The Second Amendment, the amendment that makes freedom of speech possible, shall not infringe, are etched in who we are as Americans. Well, in Oregon, Democrats want to take your guns by eroding every possible right you may have to bear arms. We have seen it time and time again. Oregon Gun Rights is on the front lines of policymaking, developing a proactive agenda to protect your right to bear arms. Unlike failed organizations that just blame Republicans and take your money to pay their own salaries, Oregon Gun Rights takes no donations from hard-working Oregonians. The organization is supported by private donors who want real change in Oregon, not blame Republican politics of bad actors. 2026 is the year we can make a difference. All you have to do is enter your email at OregonGunRights.org. Let's develop a positive agenda for gun owners. Let's train our kids about safety and responsibility. Let's win Oregon in 2026. Instead of blame, let's get involved. OregonGunRights.org.
I wonder if his position is essential.
I don't know. That's a good question.
We were
That's
over
a-
there.
that's a
We
good
were over there.
question.
Vikki and I were there last week in DC, and it was pretty interesting. We luckily enough were able to get Cliff Bentz wasn't there because the Republicans in Congress kind of have no reason to be there, right? In the House. 'Cause
That's
they
right.
Passed their CR, so he was back home. So then we reached out to friend of the pod, Val Hoyle, and she happened to be in DC, and so she gave Vikki and I a tour of the Capitol. And I mean, we've been in there before, but it was fun to visit with her and kind of walk around. She's got some really fun knowledge about some of the Capitol stuff. And we were walking, we were in the Senate while they were in session. This was
Oh, nice.
last Wednesday, would have been Wednesday last week. And then I saw Arizona Senators Gallego and Mark Kelly. They were doing a little presser. I was going to walk by, and I was literally walked right behind him. And I really wanted to say something really bad, but I was afraid Val would get upset at me. I was gonna say something there, but I didn't. And then but it was fun being in the Capitol when nobody else is there. Let me tell you, that's the best time to get a tour when it's shut down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was great. And we also, Vance Day, good friend of Vikki and I, he's at the AG's office, the Attorney General. So he works for Pam
That's
Bondi.
right.
Yeah. So we met up with him. We were walking over to a reception that we were going to, and we were walking by there. So we've texted Vance, said, "Hey, are you in your office by chance? Because you can't even go into the department, that building. It's not even tourable anymore."
Right.
So he happened to be there, and he's like, "Yeah, give me 5 minutes. I'll meet you downstairs." So he gave us a private tour of that building and the Attorney General's office and all the things, and that was a blast. Like that was pretty cool.
That's pretty
to see
cool.
that. And it's great to see Vance, and we got to talk to I forget the guy's name. I have his card, but he does he is essential, and he is in charge. So he's an assistant like Bonham would be to Lori, but he does all of the legal work for the FBI and ICE.
Oh.
So he is their like chief lawyer.
He sounds busy. I'd imagine he's busy right now.
Yeah, he was essential. So he was pretty busy, and he's like, "Yeah, we're a little busy." So it was fun. We had a good time.
That's awesome. Well, and I think, yes, Congresswoman Hoyle, friend of the pod, she's always really accommodating to folks, even as you guys are not from her district. So I really appreciate that. So
We had some good conversation with her though about natural resource policy, thinking, of course, and then like I was lobbying her on the Coos Bay, Port of Coos Bay stuff because she shares Senator Anderson's district. So I was like, "Val, what do we got to do?" And she's like, "Well, we got to first get the government back open so we can start talking about budgets because that's where we need the money coming through there, to build the train tracks that we need. I mean, we have the train tracks, but there's a lot of expansion that we need to really get that Port of Coos Bay project off the ground." And so we talked about that for a while. And then, which you'll like this, Reagan, since Vikki's your boss, but she really wants to partner with Representative on coming up with some natural resource policy that kind of like our bill where Vikki had that bill where we were going to do that pilot project around Ochoco National Forest and do some co-managing and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
they had some really good conversations about that. Val's got a lot of forests in her district, and I think there's some good ideas there, some good opportunities maybe with the tribes to kind of sidestep some of the natural resource policy stuff that the feds are kind of in the way of. So I think there could be some good opportunity there to come up with something that would be very bipartisan and very opportunistic about opening up our forest again and getting some logging going. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, I am excited too, and I think the great thing about Congresswoman Hoyle is she knows all the players. She knows the federal players and she knows state level players. So that is really awesome.
Oh
And
yeah.
then maybe we can get a little bit more even with the bipartisanness. It's funny that Congresswoman Hoyle and Representative Breese Iverson both in the minority in their chambers, but they're the ones motivated to get stuff done, which I always love. Another thing, and so I can't figure out where my clip went. I gotta see who I texted it to, but there was a CNN clip talking about all of the different redistricting stuff that's going on. I think it's on my phone here. And it was a CNN bit that they were doing where they're basically, oh, here it is. See? So there's all these different redistrictings mid-decade that are going on. So Trump triggered this by asking Texas to redistrict for 5 extra seats. California has a
Yeah.
ballot measure that I think a lot of people are expecting to cancel that out to pick up 5 seats for Dems. And then they have Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Indiana, Florida, Kansas, New Hampshire, and Nebraska all looking at redistricting in favor of Republicans. And Utah, although weirdly Democrats look to pick up a seat in Utah. I'm not quite sure how that works. Maybe what they did was they packed in, because there were multiple seats Democrats want to contest in Utah right now. Maybe what they did is pack all the Dems into one seat that they can win for sure, but then they can't win the other one. Anyway, California and Maryland is talked about. One of the things that's fascinating to me is that I've definitely seen on the internet, on Twitter, I've seen, because I follow lots of different national folks, people are drawing using the like Dave Redistricting app to draw
Yeah.
maps of Oregon that are 6-0 Democrat. And I have not seen any Oregon politicians really talk about redistricting. I saw Hakeem Jeffries talking about Illinois, which is already just gerrymandered within an absolute inch of its life. They're going to try to squeeze another seat out of there. I am kind of interested in the fact that no Democrats in Oregon are really talking about this, despite being so anti-Trump. But we'll see if that develops, if that changes as Republicans do more of these redistrictings, if more pressure builds on the Democrats to get it done. What happens with this will be fascinating to follow.
Now there is a rumor that there was some Dem maps circulating on a 6-0 Oregon. And I can confirm that there were some Dem maps circulating that
Fascinating.
they could get Bents out, but I think the other Democrats didn't want to represent more of Portland.
That's fascinating.
That is why I heard it die, because there was some they were like, I don't want Portland.
I think I totally see, and people will be confused. Why, Reagan, you're a Republican. Why do you want to eliminate a Republican congressional seat? That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is a lot of political benefit potentially to Oregon for Democrats to try to pick up an additional seat here. But here's the thing, and this is where this whole mid-decade redistricting could absolutely backfire. And it's that if Republicans create too many seats that flip in a wave, or Democrats create too many seats that flip in a wave, you could actually do what they call not a gerrymander, but a dummy-mander, where you try to take too many seats out of an area and you end up making a bunch of them weak, and then they flip if the national environment flips hard against a Democrat or against the Republicans, right? And both of those things have happened. We've seen those. 2008 was an absolute bloodbath for Republicans with the Obama wave. I mean, Democrats had massive majorities in the House, which was immediately followed in 2010 by a massive red wave where Republicans had enormous majorities in the House. So I just think like the opportunity here is that Republicans are trying to, and then there's talk about, I don't know if you've seen this, Brian, I'll send this to you. There's a map that's circulating. If the Supreme Court strikes down the Voting Rights Act, then it's possible that that Republicans pick up a bunch of seats in the South by doing some redistricting to eliminate some of these majority black districts and other things, right? And so there's just so much unknown and a lot happening, and we haven't seen a big mid-decade redistricting push like this. Normally, it's been locked into the year after the census, but Trump's also doing a new census, which could also further make this more complicated. He's called for a new census, So a lot happening here. Everybody's going to redistrict their maps, and then there'll be a new census, and then we'll redistrict again in 26. I mean, it's total chaos out there right now.
Yeah, I was talking to a lady when I was in DC, and she does a lot of the Latino politics across the country. And we were talking about Texas, and that's where she's from. And her biggest fear is literally what you said, is that yes, they redistricted, and assuming they said they made all the assumptions based off the 2024 numbers.
That's a huge risk.
And yeah, that's what she was saying. She's like, these guys, because they really weakened some of the other districts so they could make to get to that 5 extra seat map, right? So they had to really weaken a lot of those. And she was really concerned that if we have a really bad Republican year, that Texas could go blue. Congressionally speaking,
Yikes.
because of how weak they've made some of those strongholds. So I think that there is a true problem with that, and I think California's kind of doing the same thing, right? I mean, you could see a wave in California
Right.
that is the unintended consequences of trying to do this versus. I think with the redistricting, the whole point is, you can look at a map and you can clearly say this one's gerrymandered and this one isn't, right? I mean, communities of interest is not that difficult to figure out in redistricting. It really isn't that hard.
You need to really require just computers to do it and just set the parameters, maximally compact, as few county splits as possible, all that stuff. And you can
Yeah.
just have computers spit out maps. Now, Democrats will say, well, there's a disadvantage because all our people live in the suburbs. No, if you wanted to help rural people and do policies that would help them, they would vote for you, but you don't want to. So anyway. And same for the Republicans who struggle in the suburbs lately. But so I can't get to the actual article because it's behind a paywall. But the preview here says the governor is tracking. This is OPB asked Tina Kotek if she would do a mid-decade redistricting. The governor is tracking what other states are doing and currently has no plans to redistrict in Oregon. And I was like, well, does the governor? She doesn't draw the maps. Anyway, I was confused by that part. Maybe they need her to call the special session. I mean, this is the thing too, Brian, that I mentioned to some
Well,
people.
she
I
did
said,
draw the maps in 21.
well, but she was the speaker of the House, right?
Yeah.
So that's the
They're her
difference.
maps. She doesn't want to
And
redraw her own maps.
oh, that's a great point too. But it doesn't. By the way, you don't need the governor to call a special session. The legislature can, and Republicans
Yeah.
even tried to trigger a transportation session. And all you need is one House member, one Senate member to trigger everybody to vote for it, or
We
require them
tried
to
to
vote.
Remember, we tried to trigger a Measure 110 one as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so
we got it done in short session because that was the pressure that we put on the Democrats to get it done.
That's right. And then but if Democrats, if I'm a Democrat and I get that ballot and I go, oh, so if I vote yes, I save democracy for a short session. If I vote no, I defend President Trump. I'm going to have to vote yes, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how Democrats are going to be able, but if you try to redistrict during short session, you're way too late for timelines because your short session ends, you have candidate filing, voters pamphlets, like stuff is done. They don't have time in the short session to redraw all of and figure out where all your new districts are to send everybody the correct ballot for Congress. You don't have to do the legislature, by the way, they'd probably leave it. So if they're going to make that decision, they basically have about a month to decide if they're going to call another special session.
I don't think they will. I mean, I've said this time and again with Governor Kotek. She's not a pugilist. She doesn't want the fight. She's a policy wonk, to be honest with you. I mean, she's super wonky. She's super heady when it comes to policy. She believes government can solve all the problems. But she doesn't like the fight. She doesn't do social media. It's her staff. She never even looks at anything. So even the stuff with ice in Portland, I said she hates that stuff. There's no way she's enjoying that. She's doing it because she has to,
Right.
because the base freaks out if she doesn't do anything. But I don't, and I think it could be a little bit of a problem for her because I think for the governor's race, it'll be interesting how she plays that out because if she runs against Donald Trump, she wins, right? If she runs on her record, she's got a little bit of a problem.
That's right.
Because she hasn't accomplished anything. Everything's worse off today than it was when she took office.
But hey, at least she isn't Gavin Newsom, who said he was going to build 2.5 to 3.5 million new homes by 2025 when he took office in 2017, and they've built 750,000. So it could be
I mean,
worse.
she said 36,000 and she can't even build half that.
Well,
So
the fact that we're on a decline on permits is sort of a problem. However, I think what we're going to discover is some of that certainly is bad housing policies,
yeah.
which she's tried to overturn and been defeated on. But the other part of it is we're headed into a recession, and housing and construction always takes a beating as you head into a recession. You think about, the '09 and the 2008, 2009 recession, right? Like that was brutal for housing. And frankly, we basically didn't actually recover from that recession. We
No.
were building before that, and then it just took an absolute nosedive,
And
and
we're
we
not
never
seeing
really
home prices
recovered.
decline, which is the problem that we're seeing.
That
We're
is the
seeing
biggest problem.
most people are still sitting in the same homes because I think there's a lot more equity built into people's homes at this point. So nobody's really walking away and creating a downward pressure on the home.
And there's absolutely no way I am going to risk my 3.25 APR mortgage.
Totally, right? You're one of a lot of people that bought any time from really what 2014 or so up until 2020,
Yep.
even 2021. Nobody's getting out of those mortgages. Why would you?
Nope. In fact, I want the mortgage I had in 2019. I wish I could go back and do that. That was even better.
Idiot. Yeah, what are you doing? Well, you moved though. That was your thing. You moved to a
Yeah.
bigger house.
And I wanted rural property. And so I have and the great thing was I was able to afford more property. I would not be able to buy the same property today with the same income because of what the payment would be now, just because of how things have changed, right?
Uh,
Now, the flip side being, if I wanted to go sell, I would probably not be able to sell this property right now necessarily either, unless I find an all cash buyer, of which there are still some out there if they want land and a fixer upper. But
this is true. There are some good deals out there. I mean, I was looking at some real estate, and there's a couple of decent deals out there. So I'd be
yeah,
buying at Coos Bay if I was young, because I think Coos Bay. I think we're going to get that port done, and I think that's going to be the next boom town. So
all right.
that's my prediction. Hey, to put a
Well,
bow on the,
yeah,
the Senate District 26, I don't think we actually. I think we got off on a tangent and talked about
we
DC.
did. We absolutely did because you talked about DC.
Yeah, they are having their PCP vote Saturday, this
Yeah.
coming Saturday. So then when they put forth three people, we'll end up with Christine Drazan and two other people who knows who. And then the commissioners in Clackamas County will vote for Christine Drazan, and she'll be the new senator. So I expect
So
that.
your prediction is that Drayson wins it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's clear. I don't think there's um any change in that at all. I couldn't even, I was looking this morning. I can't even find where anybody else besides her is even putting their name forward because they have to put
Coverage.
three. Yeah, but I don't think he's going for the appointment because I
Oh,
haven't
he
seen
won't even go for the
tweets-
appointment.
I
Wow.
haven't seen a tweet or anything by him that said that he's going
That's
for the
true.
appointment. So,
Mm.
I mean, and he's a PCP, so he's probably there at the meeting, which that would be interesting. I mean, if I didn't have anything to do, I might go sit. I love those things, man. Those appointments are just wild because and they're also kind of dumb sometimes because I think they sit there and they ask questions, and it's like these people already know who they're voting for. Can we just get on with it?
I do feel like that's the same, although there's always a segment of people in the room who don't know because they're not like all plugged in and addicted to this stuff like we are
I
all the
know.
time. But here's the other thing, and I'll close it with this. Drazen still has not said whether she is or is not running for governor. So Helfrich can sit and wait and decide to jump into this when she runs for governor if that is ultimately what she does and she doesn't stay in the Senate. So it's not like it's over for him by any means. Because if she was locked into the Senate, she would just say, "Yeah, I'm not running for governor, I'm running for Senate."
Yeah.
But she's going for the appointment without saying, and so that I think still, the fact that she's going to get the appointment obviously is related to the fact that she's well known in that area, I think, and people either want her or don't want to mess with her, and I think both things can be true. But like, it's fascinating to me that she hasn't said if she's running for governor yet, and that isn't at play in this appointment process. Because normally, I think that would be right if you're going to appoint a senator that literally serves for from October to a year from now, not
Yeah.
this coming January, but the January from there, that's like, 14 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think
it's interesting.
it is, and I'll be curious if that discussion comes up in the PCP process, because I think it's worth having that discussion. And I mean, she knows what she's doing, right? I mean, she's a polished campaigner, so she knows how to answer questions. She's going to be prepared for an answer. And I've talked with her at length about running for governor, and I think I think she can wake up one morning and decide she wants to run for governor, and she could wake up the next morning and decide she just wants to be a senator. And
Right.
and I think that this at least gives her a little bit more options, right? Because the one thing
Yes.
she was definitely sure she didn't want to be was the House Republican leader.
Which I don't blame her at all for. That is the hardest job in the building.
It easily the hardest job of the building, because there's way too many people that you have to worry about, and you're
Frankly, we need to have Mike McLean on and ask him why it was such a piece of cake for him to do it for like 10 years and what has changed.
right. I don't know. Yeah, he had Val Hoyle. I think it worked pretty well for him because Val used to talk about how those two would get along pretty well, and sit out and have conversations about people. I just think, that I think the players were a little different. I think and I think that's cliche-ish a little bit, but
It is clear that the Republicans and the Democrats who are in leadership now do not get along. And as much as they want to send press releases congratulating each new leader as they always
yeah,
do, that's just a box checker. It's like weird when you don't do it, but that does not mean that there's a strong relationship there. And I think you did have these situations where there was stronger relationships across the party, and those have decayed some, and that is unfortunate. And it seems like kind of the last time we had really strong relationships was a brief period of crossover between Courtney and Canope, and then Rayfield and Vikki Breese Iverson. And since then, it has been incredibly bad in terms of relationships between leaders for the most part.
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that but there's also been some change on the D side, and that has really, and their caucuses have really changed, and I would say that's what I fear is happening is we're seeing, like we talked earlier about the DSA and how the tail's wagging the dog with the Democrats, and we're seeing more of those farther left people moving into the Democrat side of the party, as well as we've seen a little bit more extreme on the Republican side as well,
Yeah.
and that usually doesn't help for finding bipartisan solutions.
It doesn't, unfortunately. So,
No, we'll see.
uh,
We'll see what happens. I think I think there's some opportunity for some change, but it's not looking great right now.
no. Well, we'll keep an eye on it as always and continue to keep everybody updated. Very, very last thing, if I still have the tab open, couple of incumbents that filed this week. Rob Wagner and Mark Meek right next to each other on the
Yeah,
filing page.
same
That's
day.
hilarious. David Gomberg and Casey Jama all seeking re-election for the legislature. So that's pretty much all the updates we have at
Yeah.
this point.
Did you see that? And also, it was weird that John was coming back to housing as just a member.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
I did
so
not see that. I need to go
he
back
took
and look through all the
Brodman's
appointments.
he took Brodman's spot on housing, which I thought was interesting.
He was the former chair of that committee, right?
Yeah,
Jama?
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not a bad choice by any means.
And he's still majority leader, which is cool. I mean, I like, Senator Jama and I get along really well, and he is a very kind man. Um, his policies and I don't necessarily get along outside of housing, but he's been a huge supporter, so it's great to have him back in housing. And I just thought it was odd to put the majority leader on housing. I found that to be an interesting move. I wonder what the backstory is there. So I'll have to do some digging to see why. Because normally they're so full with rules, especially in short session. I mean, they're usually jam packed, right?
Do
So,
you have that appointment memo, by the way? You should forward it to me because I haven't got a chance to go over
oh,
all of the Senate
yeah,
appointments. So,
I
all
can
right.
send it to you, Reagan. We won't send it to the listeners. They can go find it on
No.
public
Well,
info.
it's. I wish they would just post them. It's kind of a nightmare to find that stuff sometimes.
Those are the only real changes, though, that I saw.
Oh, okay.
There wasn't
Very
much.
good.
A few other ones.
Oh, it is here in my inbox. There it is. All right.
Natural
Very cool.
resources, like this. My senator's off natural resources sub now.
No,
Yes.
Anderson.
So well, you have Todd, so you'll be fine. So, but there's been a few. There was a few changes, but nothing too wild.
It's hard to find a senator with better committee assignments than Senator Dick Anderson, honestly.
Ways and means, finance and revenue, housing, and
General Gov Sub. That one punches above its weight too. That's a good one.
I don't know. I tried dumping out of that one, but I don't think Wagner wouldn't let us out.
I would have such a field day in General Gov Sub. That's a great subcommittee.
I know, but you like that stuff. Like, it's not my going through the DAS budget isn't my cup of tea, man.
That's where all the crime. That's where they hide all the crime, Brian. We're out of time today, but we've got more on that front, more to report on. Looking forward to talking next time.
Sounds good.